Hello, it's day 8 already, can't believe it. So just to show you what I have done while you were not watching. You see these lines that I have used in the background? I kind of thought that it might enhance the appearance of my drawing. Which you can do or not, you don't need to see how it's done, I'm sure. So today's drawing today's tangle is Zenith by Zentangle. And it's one of their tangles that I don't use really often, but I am going to use it today. This is what challenges are for. And I think I'm going to use it somewhere here. So again, I'm taking my pencil to draw a kind of a string. It's not a traditional Zentangle string, but it's a direction that I will take my Zenith in. And the way the tangle is done, it's quite simple, or at least I hope it will be. So I'll basically do these half circles and I'll try to do it in the direction more or less that I have traced with my pencil, although this does tend to go in a bit of a different direction, but I'm not going to worry about it. So this is just the first step, and now I need to add some, let's call it embellishments or something like embellishments. So some triangular shapes that extend from this part, and you can notice now how this is far from perfect. Well, even if it's not, perfectly shaped, it can look beautiful. And even if it doesn't look beautiful, it can still bring so much joy. I mean, the process itself can bring so much joy and relaxation that beauty and certainly perfection is not the first priority. And now I will just draw an aura line around it. And I'm not going to rotate my surface. And speaking of surface, this is where I can maybe divide these two, because I have done this part that connects them, and it will be easier to just draw on one tile instead of two of them glued together. So I will be rotating it maybe to a certain extent while I draw, but I'm not going to do it with each stroke. It would take too much time. I'm quite pragmatic in whatever I do, or at least I try to be. Today I don't have my 2 dogs around me, so it might be a quieter day, at least until the 2 of them and my husband come back from the walk. And now these orbs on top, it kind of looks like a festive tangle. I don't know why. It's quite ornamental. I'm trying to place this little spot without any ink, more or less turned towards the same part of the tile. And of course, we can do the same here on the bottom, or what I maybe will do is another version. I will place a bigger one between these triangles on the other side, which is really just a tangulation, or in usual vocabulary, non-Zentangle vocabulary, it's a version of a tangle. So don't always follow the instructions. It's also one way to develop your creativity, to just try to consider what else is possible with whatever tangle you are working with. This is how the tangulations are born. Or maybe you can even give birth. Maybe you can even come up with a new tangle. It's difficult to know or draw the line exactly between what's a tangulation of a tangle and a new tangle. But I've been once told by another CZT, or we have commented inside the Facebook group, and I really agree with it. It's easier if there are enough differences to just come up with a new name and call it a tangle, even if there are some similarities to the already existing tangle. Then speaking about a tangulation of a tangle that looks a certain way, so it's just easier to explain. And this is why the tangles have their names, so that you don't have to try to explain the appearance. It just makes it easier. And of course, it's a challenge to try to remember all the names of different tangles. If you are a beginner, it might seem a bit intimidating, but I would not worry about it. When I started tangling, I basically, and I still do it, I mostly use my favorite tangles. It's like the best friends. I will fill these spaces with ink just to increase the contrast. And when you start tangling, you can also start with, I don't know, maybe 10 tangles or so. And then just gradually introduce more tangles into your creative life. So I think I'm done with the drawing process, and I have to think of a way to color this, or not to color but to shade. I'll start with adding some shades right next to these rice shapes that we drew. The interesting thing is that we haven't done it by drawing the rice shapes themselves. We drew them by drawing these curved lines, and then by combining those curved lines, these rice shapes magically appeared. It is a kind of magic how these meta patterns appear. Another way to develop the creativity is try to think of a different way to shade your tangle. The interesting thing is that I always preferred drawing on my tiles, paper tiles. So I don't have many drawings. I love looking at other people's sketchbooks, but I'm not good at keeping up with a sketchbook practice. So I don't have this oh my god, I'm missing the English word. I'm not used to, let's rephrase it, I'm not used to practicing tangle before starting tangling. I usually just take tile and start drawing, and I rarely throw away unfinished pieces. Of course it happens, but in line with the Zentangle's principles of no mistakes and of just being in the moment and drawing and not being judgmental about what we draw, it's best to give those drawings a chance, even if you don't like what you created. Maybe just leave it as it is and start over tomorrow. When you wake up and look at it, you might see some beauty or some potential that you haven't seen before. So some of these are filled with black ink, those that are closed, and I'll just introduce some shades around the others. Ew. And as I said, if you're using the regular graphite pencil for shading like I do, which I mostly don't do, I mostly take the one with soft graphite like B8 or something like that, or I take let me just show you what I'm using lately. I take this Cretacolor Nero soft or extra soft, which really has a nice white, nice black trace that doesn't leave too much shine. But if you're using the graphite pencil, it might not be too dark and too contrasting, but you can go back to certain sections and just use some more graphite without blending it to increase the depth and increase the contrast. I'm not sure that my decisions regarding the shading, the way to shade this, were the best. As I said, I don't have too much experience with this tangle. I might have used it before. Maybe you have a better idea about how to shade it, and I will certainly observe with curiosity. I'm very curious what the other tanglers will do with it. How they will use their shading and highlighting supplies to enhance Zenith. And here I have these orbs nested inside these nooks, so I'm not going to use the same shading and highlighting because the shapes are not the same. And I will use some white just here on top, and I took a jelly roll instead of taking the white charcoal, just to be more precise and to have a lighter white trace or more intensive. White trace. And there it is. It looks like something that belongs in a circus, let's say. I can now extend my border, but I have to check what the next tangle is. I might also draw this border here without any tangles breaking through it, but I'm not sure. I will see about that tomorrow. Thank you as always for drawing with me. It's always a pleasure for me to to pretend that I have somebody who's listening and watching me. But anyway, if you have been here with me during my creative process, thank you for watching. Just some highlights on this bottom side, a small smiley shape done with the 05. And you don't have to be afraid about trying to do this, because even if you don't like the result, you can just go over it with black ink, so no harm done. But this was quite a short one to draw, and yeah, it was fun. Thank you for being here with me. See you tomorrow. Bye.